Hello, and thank you for joining me for 12 tips to back to school success. Because can we just say it? Last year was enough it was a dumpster fire. And to even think about going back to school right now is stressful for teens and parents. And nobody, quite frankly, even wants to consider it. We're all kind of like, no, 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 la, 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 it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But it is actually going to happen. So let's talk about it, shall we? Okay, my name is Allie Payne. I'm a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach, and I've been helping parents and teens to end the painful disconnection, emotional blow-ups, stressful silences, to create relationships based on trust and respect for over 15 years now, almost 15 years. And today I want to talk to you about 12 tips for back to school success. It's been a hard enough year. Maybe you also had, through pandemic learning, you had summer school, and it's not anything that was a great experience, really, for a lot of us. And so getting back in can feel even harder. And today's tips I'm going to give you are easy and simple. You can do any of them in any combination to help support yourself to reduce stress as well as your teenager. The first thing I want to talk to you about, though, is I have a adolescent substance abuse webinar coming up on August 25th. I hear from parents daily, at least 5 to 10 messages every single day about parents who are feeling heartbroken, lost, and devastated about their teen struggling in substance abuse or use, and they don't know how to help them. And unfortunately, that's outside of my area of expertise. So I went and gathered one of Canada's award-winning adolescent substance abuse experts, Mr. Rand Teed. He is doing a webinar with me on August 25th. The link is in my bio, so you can register or go to my website, alliepayne.com. There's a banner right at the top you can click on. Once you register, you can submit a question to Rand. So we're going to do a 60-minute webinar, and then we're going to do the Q&A portion. Even if you can't attend live, it's fine. You will get a link that is valid for the rest of your days because that's what you paid for, so that's what you're going to get. I also want you to know this webinar is confidential. Your name, your little square for Zoom, none of that will show. Your microphone will be off, your camera will be off. No one will know you're on that webinar because I understand there's a lot of stigma around this only happening to bad parents and bad families, which is a load of crap, not true. And I want everybody to be able to get the help that they need to not feel so alone in this very, very challenging time. So August 25th, the link is in my bio, Adolescent Substance Use Webinar. Please click through, share it with as many parents as you can because I need to feel like we can make a difference here. We just have to stick together on it. All right. So back to 12 tips. Let's dig in. I've got my notes here. That's why I'm looking down. All right. The first is cues and triggers. Your teenager is not irresponsible. They are not less intelligent because they're having a difficult time with management of social media and technology. Here's why. You and I grew up with television and commercials, okay, or credits. Like that's it. It was a show. There was a time frame. There was external cues, natural built-in external cues that helped us to better regulate ourselves and our time. Social media is built and intended not to do that. It was actually invented by Twitter, the endless feed where it never ended. YouTube is the same. It just keeps playing the next video. Even when video games end, it hits the dopamine pleasure centers in the brain, okay? So let's not judge your teenager or shame and blame them. Let's help them given what they are growing up in and what was invented to keep them on and in the black rabbit hole that we've all been in, let's face it. External cues are really helpful and positive. So what we use is a stove timer or a microwave timer. You can put an alarm clock out in the hallway. It must require your teenager to change their body state. So if they're sitting down, it must require them to get up and move. That is the trigger that the brain needs to change tasks or change focus. So that is why a cell phone alarm does not work and it won't work. Okay, so it has to be something that requires them to get up and move. But here's 2 other steps to this. Number 1, you do not set the timer. Don't set the timer. Your teenager is responsible for setting the timer. I'll get into a bit of time management skills here as we move forward, but your teenager, empower and equip them to set the timer. And then when the timer goes off, you do not stop it, because if you stop it and then you go into the room and you tell them the timer went off, what's different about that's still nagging for you and it's nagging for them and rah, 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 everybody hates it. Your teenager must get up and turn the timer off. So if they're wearing headphones, then it is important that that be close enough to them that they have to get up. There's actually psychology, a lot of psychology behind this. So it needs to be something that helps them shift and change their body state so they get up and move, and that is what triggers the brain to saying, okay, now I need to get onto my homework, or now I need to do this chore, or something, so that they feel that sense of pride and accomplishment because they get what they want and you get what you want. All right, so that's the first one. Number 2 is the 5-minute rule. If your teenager had a really rough go in this past year in pandemic learning, whether it was online or person, it doesn't matter. If they had a really rough go, maybe even they had to do summer school, their brain has probably developed a very large, like big as an elephant, large negative story, a NAT, negative automatic thought. It's even bigger than that. It's actually a limiting belief about their abilities to succeed at a particular part of school. Maybe it's science, math, English, like it doesn't matter. Maybe it's school as a whole. The 5-minute rule is intended to just start. So there's a lot of science behind this as well about the energy it takes to start, that actually once you start, it's really positive. Now, you're not tricking your teenager, so don't play this game, but the 5-minute rule is saying to them, set your timer, and this could be their phone timer, set your phone timer for 5 minutes. And just do 5 minutes. Now listen to me, in that 5 minutes, that might mean they just take out their textbook, open it to the page they need to read, or the math quiz, the assignment, the science, whatever. Maybe they open the assignment online. Maybe they just put their name at the top of the page. Maybe they just skim through and do the really easy things that look easy and don't take as much effort, because you see, these are things that are not, these are activities that slip under the tripwire of that negative belief. Because as soon as that negative belief shows up, that elephant comes, well, it kind of sits on you. So I don't know about you from there, like not much is going to happen. You just stare at the screen and it gets bigger and more true. See? So let them just do 5 minutes. Now, if they do the 5 minutes and they quit after 5 minutes, you celebrate they did the 5 minutes. Just let them do 5 minutes. If they do more than 5 minutes, celebrate that too. Every time they just do little 5-minute increments, you are helping them to build esteem and confidence to do more. But it goes in baby steps. And I don't care if you think that's useless, and I don't care if you think they're capable of more. I don't care. You can either help them start or not. So use the 5-minute rule as a way to encourage them to just start, because it's more likely that they can get 5 minutes done without triggering that large limiting belief showing up about how they suck at this, they're stupid, they're a failure, they're never going to get it done, they're never going to get the great whatever. Okay, 5-minute rule. Number 3, expectations and motivation. I talk a lot about this. So if you're new here, I recommend you go to my YouTube channel and watch my video on apathy is a coping strategy. I also wrote a full article on it on my blog, alipayne.com blog. You can scroll back a bit and look up apathy is a coping strategy. Expectations and motivation are a negative influence on your teenager. I understand that might seem hard to be with because you love your teenager. You love your teenager and you want well for them. Of course you do. And in fact, you of all people probably see all their inherent gifts and talents and their potential more than anybody else in the world. So why wouldn't you want to remind them of that, right? Like that just makes sense. It literally does make sense. I get it. Motivation scientifically cannot come from you. Motivation is an internal and inside job. So you can't motivate your teen. I get messages every single day from parents. How do I motivate my teen to do their schoolwork? You can't. But I will tell you what will work. So stick with me, okay? Keep listening. Motivation turns into expectations. Expectations are your version of success, your version of what is necessary to be a good student, a good teenager, for you to be a good parent. Yes, your stories are in there as well. What is success? What is failure? All of those stories are expectations. When you place your expectations on your teenager, as in they must maintain a certain percentage level, a certain grade, they must, hand in like all their assignments. Like, I get where you're going with this, okay? I get it, because it's important, because you want them to have the most opportunity possible in their life. You want them to have every opportunity for schools, for sports, for great careers, for jobs. I know you want that for them. Of course you do, because you're an amazing parent. That's why. The way you're going at it, if it's an expectation, like if they get less than a B average, they're grounded. That's an issue. That's about your story about for failure and success. That's about you catastrophizing. That's not a word. That's about you catastrophizing. That is a word. What might happen if they get a C? If they get a C, then at some point they're going to eventually fail out. They're going to be homeless. They're going to live under a bridge and be unemployable. Is that really true? Some of the most successful people in our world today didn't finish elementary school, didn't finish junior high, dropped out of high school, or dropped out of university. So our education system as it currently stands is actually quite antiquated, and it is not at all keeping up with current opportunities or the needs of our children. It covers a lot of fundamental basics, and this is not against teachers, because I think teachers are pretty darn amazing people doing the very best they can within that system, okay? But your expectations sounds like this to your teenager. My love is conditional for you, and I only love you if you perform to make me look like a good parent, so you look like a good person. When you fall below that expectation, I do not love you, you have failed, and in fact, you are a failure. I know that sounds harsh, but that is literally the experience for your teenager, okay? What your teenager wants is to feel loved and accepted. And they want to be acknowledged for their character, their attitude, and their efforts, not external forms of measures of performance or success, like grades and percentages. I did 2 TikToks last year about expectations and teenagers not being defined by their grades, and you should read the tens of thousands of comments from teenagers who say, that's not true. My kid, not only do my parents not love me if I don't achieve a certain grade, but they will kick me out, and they don't love me if I don't get into the best schools. They won't love me if I don't get the best jobs. These teenagers are living in a world where they truly do believe their love from their parents is conditional because of expectations of external qualifications, like somehow that makes them a better person. Doesn't. What your teenager wants to know is that their inherent value doesn't change, and it builds resilience for them to know you love them when they fail and you love them when they succeed, but they're not defined by that. And if you feel defined by their failure or success, then I would ask you to check your stories. I understand that's tough. Please check out my video on YouTube as Apathy as a Coping Strategy. I also wrote an article on my website, alipayne.com, under the blog, Apathy as a Coping Strategy. I hope it's quite revealing for you. All right, number 4, be your teenager's ally. What this means is you come along beside them to help them find ways that work for them, and you get curious over being critical. Now, I have to understand that, again, teachers trying to do their job, they might be messaging you last year saying, your kid's not showing up to school, they're missing assignments, and you take some of that pressure on because they're doing their jobs, and you take some of that pressure on and then you project it on your teenager out of frustration, for sure. And it comes across as criticism because you're frustrated, you're mad, and like, what's your problem? How hard is it? Just show up and get your assignments done, for heaven's sakes. I totally understand that. It's very real. Everyone was so stressed last year. That criticism depletes their self-esteem and confidence again. So if you come from as their ally and you get curious about saying, look, tell me what's going on here. Help me to understand. How can we help this work for you? Like, do you want me to do you want to help asking the teacher? Would you like a tutor? Can we set your room up different? Do you want to not work in your room? Would it help you to have a different environment? Just get curious. I'm not saying babysit them or do it for them, but get curious over criticizing so that you are their ally in creating an environment that works for them. This is about being part of upward momentum that lifts your teenager as opposed to downward pressure that actually shrinks them, okay? So be their ally by getting curious over criticizing. Number 5, use the 50-10 rule. There's a lot of studies in the brain about how to get the most out of your brain and focus. Now, in focus studies, I'm not talking about those Zen moments where you like lose track of time and everything's awesome, because that is not how your teenager feels about school or homework. The 50-10 rule, that's 5-0-10, is that your brain can focus best for 50 minutes on anything, and then you take a 10-minute break. Couple things happen. Number 1, your intellectual functioning, particularly learning. It takes a lot of energy to learn. Learning something for 50 minutes, it's more likely to focus more and be more present to that learning when your brain knows it gets a 10-minute break. Instead of thinking like, oh my God, I gotta hunker down for 3 hours and get this done. It's gonna be horrible. That's what we all do. That's what teenagers do. I know. So using the 50-10 rule means help them to focus for 50 minutes on anything. That's if it doesn't feel like it's super overwhelming and this is a super negative experience in the past that requires the 5-minute rule that I already talked about. If this is just something they don't want to do but they feel capable of doing, use the 50-minute rule. Then in the 10 minutes, they get to take a break. That means get up, change their physical state. Again, go for a walk, go to the bathroom, get a snack, listen to their favorite music, meditate, lay on the floor, stretch, talk to a friend. Sure, be on their phone if that's what they want, but they have to change their physical state somewhere and change their environment, like get out of their room, okay? That helps the brain to clear out so that it prepares for the next 50 minutes. There's an app you can use called the 1 Minute Change, and it actually like gives you suggestions of what to do. Now it's only 1 minute, but in that 10-minute break, you could do 2 little 1-minute things, and that helps sustain the brain's capability of higher levels of intellectual function over longer periods of time by using the 50-10 rule, as opposed to going all in for like 3 hours where the intellectual function and capability is really high in the beginning and then it like drops off halfway and never comes back up. So use the 50-10 rule as a way to get the most of their brain for focusing. Okay, number 6, anxiety. A lot of teenagers are experiencing social anxiety because of not having been in-person school for over a year. This is not a permanent state. For many teenagers, it's temporary, but it's very real, okay? The teenage brain is highly susceptible to judgment and comparison as a function of their physiological brain development. They experience what's called egocentrism, which is that feeling of where, you know how, I don't know if you had it, I used to get cyclops zits right there, right between my eyes. And I could swear the whole school knew about it, and the whole school was staring at me, and the whole school was talking about it. That's egocentrism, where you feel like you're in a fishbowl and everyone's staring at you and talking about you. It doesn't mean your child is a narcissist or they're broken. That's a part of their brain development that can be very real. And teenagers experience this, which amplifies their social anxiety. So talk about their fear. Talk about the story and let them have at her. Like, let the story be big. Do not try and downplay the story. Please do not tell your teenager you feel that they're overreacting, being overdramatic or oversensitive. Those are the most invalidating statements that you can make. Because let me remind you, your perspective is looking back in. Their perspective is in present time. So your perspectives are not the same, okay? So let your teenager talk about their fear and just validate, which sounds like this. Wow, yeah, that's big. Yeah, that'd be scary. I totally get it. What else? No kidding. Just little statements like that are just validating. You're not agreeing, okay? You're just empathizing and listening. Let them have that story and talk to them about their fears, so that, because your fear will grow when it's in your head. Your brain does that too. It amplifies things that are in your head. When the story of fear comes out in the air, it actually has less power over you. So it's helpful for them to really give it a voice and not try and dumb it down. Now, here's a tool under anxiety that's very helpful. If you let them talk about their worst case scenario, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? And then and let it be. I mean, like a Transformer movie where everything blows up and they die in the end, like the whole thing. Okay. And then what is the best case scenario? And make this one like Disney Hallmark, like give them a magic wand. Okay. Nothing is too small. Everyone wants their SNAP. They're voted valedictorian years in advance. They become the most popular student on day one. They're automatically put as the star player on all the sports teams. They're like, you name it. Everything good happens, okay? Teachers tell them they're going to get straight A's, don't even bother showing up, whatever. Then you can ask them the third question. What is most probable? Now, this only works because you allow the teenager to anchor in. This is how the brain works. The worst case and the best case to get to what's probable. If you talk to them or ask them about their fear without judge, fixing, correcting, or criticizing, that's it. Don't interrupt. It's their story. And then you tell them that they're being overdramatic or oversensitive and what's actually, like, what's more realistic. All they have is the one end and the middle. Your brain, the brain doesn't operate that way. It has to have bookmarks to be able to come to what's most probable. So that's a tool to deal with temporary social anxiety that they might have about going back to school in person. I'm just looking at my notes here. Also make a plan. If your teenager is taking the bus, where are they going to sit on the bus? If they're going to get a ride with you, where do they want you to drop them off in a way that feels safe? Who are they going to sit with next to on the bus? Who are they going to meet when you drop them off? If they walk to school, are they going to walk with anyone? Who are they going to meet at school? Where are they going to stand? Because there's a social hierarchy at schools about where you stand. It totally is. The cool kids stand over there. The not cool kids stand over there. Where are they going to meet and hang out? Help them to make a plan. Don't you drive it, but encourage them to have this plan, okay? If they're going to a new school, tween, teen, young adult, doesn't matter. Many schools will host open houses so that your teenager can walk the campus, walk the halls, find out where their locker is. How do you open a locker? Do you know how stressful that is on the first day of school? Get the combination and actually figure out how to open a lock. Teenagers don't know how to do that if they haven't done it before. You know that you got to go to the left and then you got to go around again to the right and then back to the left. They don't know that. So they practice. Look in the window of their classrooms. Where do they want to sit? Where feels comfortable? If they have the opportunity to meet any of the staff, a teacher, anything, do it, because that face-to-face contact lowers stress dramatically when they show up to school, even if that's virtual. Let them and support them to do that, okay? So that's another way to reduce stress. Also, help them choose an outfit that they like. Like, let's face it, clothes don't make us who we are, okay? Like, they don't make us better or worse. But we all have a power suit. We all have a suit that's like, I got it going on. Yeah, I do. I'm looking pretty good. Yes, I am. We all have that. Help your teenager to make sure those clothes are clean so that they feel good about themselves on those days. Maybe send them a love note, like in their backpack or somewhere that's private where it won't fall out or it won't, something that's encouraging to let them know that you believe in them and that this can be a little bit scary going back into a social situation that they haven't been in a really long time. Just do baby steps and be compassionate and understanding to their brain's current level of judgment and comparison that is normal for them at this stage, okay? All right, number 7. Prioritization. This is a tool that I've used with my son. He has generalized anxiety, OCD, and school was basically hell for him. He's extremely intelligent. He finished with a 99% average, but with perfectionism and OCD, it was so hard for him to prioritize because his brain was always telling him everything was important, everything was urgent, and it was all going to be way too much and he'd never get it done. So he had panic attacks almost every night, starting at 9 o'clock. Anyway, here's what we learned. Now, your teenager may not be a visual learner. I am visual, so I did this. Your teenager might want to do this on Excel or on their phone in numbers, or this is just a tool. Let your teenager do it in a way that works for them, okay? not force your way on them. So first of all, get out all of the homework, like the subject and then what has to be, what's the actual task? Like read a few chapters in English, biology, answer these questions, math, do this, social studies, this, whatever. What is all the homework? Just brain dump it out, okay? The next column is what is the realistic amount of time that homework is going to take? Realistic. Now this was harder for my son because remember his brain was always going perfect. So it was always more time than might have been required. The third column is when is it due? Because you see, it was difficult for him. If something took an hour and it was due tomorrow, that had the same amount of importance as something that was going to take 4 hours and due next week. So we're not taught this prioritization stuff, by the way, and time management. So this is really critical for us as adults as well. To create this 3-column chart, I guess you could do 4 columns. What's the subject? What is the actual task? And then how long? What's the estimated time? And then when is it due? And that was a way I would do that because I'm very visual. So I would write it out and then I would hand it to him and say to him, okay, how should we prioritize this today? Just today. And he would say, okay, well, this is due tomorrow and this is due tomorrow. And this isn't like in grade 11 and 12 when there was 3 to 4 hours of homework, which is ridiculous, but whatever. So he could prioritize that. If he only had a couple hours, then he could look at assignments, larger assignments that were due the next week and say, okay, I think I can probably also chip half an hour off of this. And I can chip half an hour off of this. That was a way that we used prioritization for time management, but it also helped lower anxiety because your brain naturally will tell you that everything is going to take more time than it is, and it's all urgent and it's all important. And that's a Stephen Covey tool, urgent versus important, if you want to look it up. So that's the prioritization. Okay, number 8, I can't do my fingers anymore. Number 8 is preparation. Now, every personality style is different. You're going to have kids who are like the list makers and they're the super organized and they're let's be careful that we don't exalt and judge them as better. Personality styles that struggle with preparation or external structure are not less than. It is just their challenge. I am one of those people. I'm naturally very chaotic and preparation is a struggle for me. This is why I literally do these with all these notes, you guys. Okay, so preparation can look like a couple things. Having their backpack set out with the right textbooks and notebooks, having the right pencils and all the school supply stuff. It can be having their favorite, as I said, their favorite outfit washed and ready to go. It can be sleep, which is something I'm going to talk about in a second, to make sure they're feeling rested. It can also be, have they, like I said, talk to teachers. Whatever preparation looks like, preparation is one of the cornerstones for success. But you don't get to make up what preparation looks like for your teen. They get to decide what preparation looks like. And if you have a completely fly by the seat of your nights, like fly by their pants teenager, then that's who they are. And that's okay. Please do not compare them to your other children that might be super on the ball and prepared and early for everything. This isn't about better or worse, smarter, stupid, success, failure. These are somewhat personality styles in the way that we show up in the world. So preparation can just be some of the things that I've already talked about, like going through the school. Do they know what their subjects are? Do they have any reading material that they need? Have they made the plan? All of these kinds of things, whatever preparation, but ask your teenager, what kind of things what else do you think you could do to feel prepared, so preparation builds a sense of safety sometimes, security. Ask your teenager. Don't make up that you know what that is, okay? Whatever preparation looks like. But here's a couple things I'm going to lead into, which is number 9, lunches. This is the year your tween or teen is going to take on their own lunch. Now, I get a lot of heat for this, so stick with me. This is not because I understand if you make their lunch for them, it's probably because you love them and that's the way that you show and care about them. That's wonderful. My mom made my lunch for me right through to grade 12, although I did tell her not to and to stop because I wanted to do it myself and I was fine doing it myself, but that was her own anxiety and whatever, so she made my lunch. It's actually not another stressor for your tween or teen or young adult to start making their lunch. Believe it or not, this is a small baby step into equipping and empowering, which builds confidence and self-esteem. If you do it like this, roughly. Do it at night. You do not do lunches in the morning because it's already a giant, like, train without brakes. Don't add anything to your morning routine. We make lunches the night before when dinner is being put away because all the food's already out. Or when dinner's being prepared, all the food is already out. So that's when they come in and they make their lunches. And you might need to mentor your teen as far as nutrition, quantities, food groups, all that stuff. But lean into them taking this on themselves. Maybe they go grocery shopping with you and they get to pick some of their favorite foods, or within reason as far as expense, like I said, and food quality and all those things. But it's part of empowerment that they get to pick it. Here's something else that happens. When your teenager makes their own lunch, they're a lot less likely to come home with it half eaten and then you find it a week later in their backpack because they made it. So if you let them have that sense of ownership, they open their lunch and they see something that they made with food they like, with an amount that they know is right for them, they're more likely to eat it. It's an empowerment tool. So yeah, if sandwiches go soggy at night, well then you can still have all the bread put in the container, all of the meat, you can still have everything there. So all they have to do is throw it together in the morning with like a slap of mayo or mustard or whatever that looks like and be ready to go. Getting your teenager to make their own lunch also reduces your resentment about making them every day. So equipping and empowering, you are raising a future adult, and this does not actually add to their stress when you do it at night. It empowers them, okay? It's also good learning. So lunches, you're gonna lean into that this year. The other thing, okay, number 10 is sleep. Now sleep is huge. When I talked about preparation, teenagers require 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night for their brain to operate effectively. Part of the problem with that is their circadian rhythm also flips almost 2 hours during the adolescent years. So I know if you're putting this together like I am, like, well then how are they supposed to get enough sleep for school if they can't get to sleep till midnight and they're supposed to get up at 7 or earlier to get to school? Yes, it is a problem, 100%. And unfortunately, many school districts have not compensated for this natural physiological change, but those that have, the studies about academic success are quite amazing, because one of the number one things that goes when your teenager doesn't get enough sleep is academic performance, not to mention emotional regulation. Teenagers need to be in a sound sleep between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. because that is when critical hormones are released in their brain that are necessary for their brain function, but also for their body, physical growth, and their brain growth, okay? So limiting Wi-Fi by midnight or access to certain apps is critical to support them to get enough sleep. I'm not saying they're gonna love it. And I'm not saying you do this from a position of command and control. This is a compassionate conversation based on science and research to support them to be their best. This also doesn't fit every teenager. These are general statements based on science. They don't fit everyone, okay? So my teenager with anxiety had a really hard time getting to sleep at night. What we did was we practiced breathing exercises. We practiced basic stretching like you do before a PE class. Like just basic stretching helps the body to calm, helps the physical body to start to relax a little bit, gets oxygen to all of the body parts. That helps to calm and relax. Also, my son uses an app called Headspace. It's a very popular app. Calm is another great one. There's lots of great meditation apps. The problem is when your teenager's on their phone or gaming late at night, it stimulates the brain. So what happens is their natural circadian rhythm, which is when melatonin, a natural hormone occurring in the body, rises and it increases body temperature, lowers blood pressure and heart rate, which is a natural sleep cycle. When they're being stimulated by those things, that sleep cycle, that melatonin rise, can either be not noticed or overridden because the brain won't let it happen, because the brain's like, no, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. Then what happens is the brain actually shoots adrenaline into the body because it's trying to stay awake. Well, when you have an adrenaline shot in your body, I guarantee you it's going to take another hour or so to your body to metabolize that adrenaline so that you feel tired again. So do you see how it's a cycle? Now, you can purchase melatonin over the counter in certain locations in small tablet form, and I am not a medical professional in any way, so if you feel that's appropriate or you want to check with your doctor if that's okay for your teenager to take, you can do that. This is about, now also, here's what I want you to know about sleep. If your teenager's up all night right now, expecting to make this shift in one night is impossible. The brain can only shift 15 minutes at a time. That's if studies based on jet lag, and if you transfer 3 hours, transfer 3 time zones in a travel or something. So if you start now and start backing up their sleep time supportively with compassion, because this is just like building a new habit, okay? This isn't irresponsibility, this is habits, constructive, healthy habits. Help them start backing up their sleep, approximately 15 minutes per night, maybe less, maybe 15 minutes every couple nights. By backing up access to Wi-Fi, restricting access to certain apps or gaming, and helping them to slowly back that up. Now, it doesn't mean your teenager is going to be in bed and asleep at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. Like that. They're probably not going to be. Teenagers do have a hard time falling asleep at night. But if you give them the right tools and remove the things that are inhibiting that can support it. Sleep is foundational for academic success, emotional regulation, and a couple other things, but it's not negotiable. And they're going to do the best they can given that the school schedule really is harder for teenagers in itself, okay? So sleep is critical. All right, number 11, micromanaging. This goes back a little bit to expectations and motivation, which was number 3. So please do not micromanage. What micromanaging tells your teenager is that they are not capable, not smart enough, you don't trust them, and maybe you don't, and I understand that. And it also says that, that they're stupid, they're a failure, they can't do this on their own, so you have to do it for them. I understand again that micromanaging, I was a micromanager. I was a huge micromanager. It came from my need for control, which was founded in fear. Fear of what if I don't? But what if I don't? But what if I let them? And what if they fail? And then it was founded in a whole lot of what if that I realized was a whole part of my upbringing and the stories that I believed that were not necessarily true. My kids have been wildly patient with me as I remove myself and take less of a seat in the micromanagement role and trust them. Now, I understand that you may not trust your teenager after last year's pandemic schooling and summer school where they are not showing up, not handing in assignments, and just not doing the work. I understand that. That's very real. And I'll get back to the reason that happened was because their self-confidence and their self-esteem tanked. And nobody does anything if they don't believe there's even a small sliver of a chance of success. So they were not showing up and not handing in assignments, and not because they didn't care, but because they already had determined they were a failure and there was no point in trying because they were going to fail anyway. So there's a difference between not trying and not thinking that you have at all the capability or intelligence to get the job done. There's a difference, okay? One is behavioral, one is emotional. When you micromanage, it really tells your teenager that their intelligence is significantly lower than what it needs to be. So even if trust feels broken for you over last year, and you say to me, but Allie, if I take my foot off the gas, they're going to fail, they're going to drop. Yeah, I understand, and I hear that. And here's the truth. You need to take your foot off the gas first for your teenager. In fact, maybe get out of the driver's seat. Maybe go around and do shotgun so they can get back into the driver's seat and believe in themselves enough to put their foot on the gas. And in that gap, might some negative things or like some things happen? Yeah, some things might happen. But if you don't take your foot off the gas, they will not have the opportunity to learn to and believe in themselves enough to know what it's like to put their foot on the gas. So please stop micromanaging. Take the cameras out of their rooms, stop checking all the assignments every day, and focus on their effort. How are they feeling? Their character traits, their values as a person. Because when you upward lift in that area, you actually get more of what in fact you want. It's kind of counterintuitive, okay? Number 12 and the last one, celebrate small wins. Celebrate every single small win. I don't care how small it is. If they do use the 5-minute rule and they do 5 minutes and they did nothing before, then you celebrate those 5 minutes. Now, don't be inauthentic about it because teenagers have the nose for that, but be in the process of celebrating things that you know are horribly difficult for them. If you had tried to lose weight 50 times, let's just say, and you still hadn't lost a pound, but you tried 50 times, how much do you believe in yourself that if you try 51 times, it's going to work? You probably don't. You're like, well, I guess that's for other people. I'm just like, whatever. So you just don't try. Now, if you don't try, does that mean you don't care? No, you might actually literally be consumed with thoughts about how you want to lose weight and you want to feel better about yourself and you want to feel healthier and but you don't believe you have what it takes to do it. So someone from the outside would look at you and go, well, obviously you should lose weight. You obviously don't care enough. Now, how do you feel? Let's just remember this is an emotional process, not just a behavioral process. So celebrate every single win, no matter how small, because last year was not easy for anybody. It wasn't easy for you. It wasn't easy for your teenager. It wasn't easy for teachers. It was hard for everybody. So starting this year, let's make it different by celebrating these wins, using all the other 11 steps, the 12 steps for back to school success. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Allie Payne. I hope you share this with all of the parents that you know really need to hear this and to uplift themselves and teenagers, tweens, or young adults in the process. And don't forget to register for that August 25th adolescent substance use webinar that I'm hosting. The link is in my bio, or you can go to my website. There's a banner right on the top. Make sure you get in on that because there are too many parents who are struggling, feeling alone and heartbroken, trying to support their teenager through substance use, and we aren't equipped to do it. We need experts like the one I've hired to come and do this webinar. He's an award-winning Canadian substance use webinar expert with adolescents. So thank you again. I wish you a wonderful week, and I will see you next Thursday on my Instagram Live. Bye.